I hope you guys like November and we learn the truth about Charlie, and I'm not talking Mark Wahlberg, as we get closer to the exciting conclusion of Informer Season 1, Episodes 4 and 5. The after show starts right now. Stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
This jam with the Informer theme is the only way to go. That's how we're talking. We're talking all things Informer, episodes 4 and 5. As we discussed a lot of 4 last week, but we're going to get right into the meat of it this week. And of course, episode 5, episode 4 being Ruby Tuesday, episode 5 being November Has Come, leaving one episode left, the conclusion, episode 6. I can't wait to find out what happens. To my left, we have an exciting panel for you today as we talk all things. Mina.
So happy to be here, guys.
You seem so happy to be here.
I'm so happy.
And I feel like you and Louisa, say hi.
I'm Raza Shar. I'm so happy to be here.
And you guys planned it. You guys are twinsies.
Right? Look at our
We
black
are.
blazers.
Unintentional matching.
Unintentional, or was it subconscious? That's the thing. That's the way it goes, is because you could just play her and inform.
Can she? No.
You can inform that, but that's the whole thing, is like, who are you guys dressing up to be? Because that's what we see a lot of in Informer, is people playing these characters, and that's how we all have these characters and masks that we play. Episode 4 and 5 we're going to break down individually. What we're going to discuss on episode 4 this week is Nigel's death. The meeting with the boss, the head boss, who we finally meet, who runs CTSU, and Akash and Nasir's friendship. And we did get into a lot of these things last week, but we're going to really get into them this week. And also in episode 5, November Has Come, we're going to discuss the way of the gun, Holly and Sharon, and the mission, and Raza's arrest, because Raza is arrested, and that was a crazy, crazy scene. Episode 4, overall thoughts.
I really did like episode 4 a lot. There was a lot that happens. Like when it comes to the pregnancy thing, that's the one thing that stuck out the most, was Dadir finding out that Roxy was pregnant.
For me, I was mostly introduced to Gabe's past in a deeper way. Him having a dog and just all these weird flashbacks, and then Rose towards the end when she came up to him and said, I thought you got rid of that dog, what did you do? That was like towards the end of the episode. But I just feel like just so many little loopholes here and there we can't put together.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Rose and the dog, it was in the middle of the episode for a reason.
Yeah,
it was a specific, a big tipping point in the episode, and we find out a lot about who Gabe is and how he's so adept at separating and compartmentalizing his life. And that was one of the things that stuck out to me for episode 4. Well, and as far as episode 5, November Has Come, how did you guys have an overall feeling about that episode?
I felt like the shift between episode 4 and 5 is, like you said with episode 4, Gabe is really good at compartmentalizing his life. He has Charlie and then he has Gabriel. He's really good at keeping those lives separate. And then in episode 5, I think that's where we really see this transition with him, where he doesn't have as strong of a sense of self. And we see that Charlie and Gabe kind of become the same person. And Charlie is essentially an excuse for him to act out the way he's acting out. It's no longer a character. It's no longer a facade. It is Gabe. And that's the scariest thing.
So with 5, I feel like there's so many loose ends. Sharon going over to their house, taking a bath, and then introducing herself in this weird, vulgar way. But also what stood out to me was how towards the end, the stepmom or the mom or whatever she is kicks him out, and I was dying for him to show her the passport. Why didn't she just take out the passport and say, hey, I did this for you, or whatever, I'm in this whole thing. I can't really go into detail about it, but look what I got you. So for me, that was heartbreaking.
It was a lot of heartbreaking stuff. I also wanted him to tell her, but I understood how he was trying to protect her. And then I really did enjoy the confrontation between Sharon and Emily. That was actually a very pivotal scene, and it made me anxious, not only as an audience member or fan of the show, but also as a man, to come home to that situation where it's the mistress and the main, and they're sitting at the same place, but the mistress is part of this undercover. And the dichotomy of who Gabe is, it's as if Charlie is his Batman. It's who he becomes. However, he's and Gabe is his Bruce Wayne, his mask, his persona. So which one is he really? Let's find out. Let's jump into the meat of episode 4, Ruby Tuesday. And I wanted to know if you guys enjoyed the initial scenes where they show the inquiry, the investigation in the beginning of each scene. Each one is very interesting, but this one was particularly interesting because it was regarding Jin Wei-jun, the immigrant, clearly a Chinese immigrant who's working there, and they discover Cafe 66, and it's November 29th. The big day happens. What were your overall thoughts about just the concept of each show beginning with these flashbacks that are actually flash forwards?
Brilliant. It just creates this suspense. It leads up to what we're going to see next. But it also leaves little clues that we have to think about, like, oh my God, that person's dead now. So Holly, what? Explain that to me. Is she dead now? Like, I just don't understand. Like, when did that even happen?
Well, that happens in episode 5 where we get to see Holly getting shot, which would also, it actually really shocked me as well, where I was like, whoa. But in episode 4, Jin Wei-jun is the immigrant who comes. He comes, he's a Chinese immigrant, and he's looking for his break to be able to talk to his daughter.
So sad.
And I feel personally that the tidbits of the beginning not only gives us this flash forward where it sets up the anticipation and suspense, but also makes and it humanizes each of these characters. And I find it just, as you said, brilliant.
And the way he was helping everyone just go towards the back to the fire alarm, and so selfless. And it just shows how much they're struggling and they're surviving at that moment. Like, what would we do, you know?
Right. No, I agree with that. It was a really sad scene just because moments before he says that he doesn't want to wake up his daughter or whoever else wanted to speak to him, and that he would get to him at a later point in time. And I think it just showed, like, the fragility of life. Like, wow, everything can be gone in a second.
Yeah, it was definitely a very heartbreaking moment. I mean, especially he's this guy, he's working hard, he's sending money home, and he just doesn't get that phone call. He doesn't get that chance. It's just the concept of everything is like our arrogance thinking we'll just get tomorrow, and it doesn't come.
We never know.
And it sets up
all we have.
A humanization of these victims, because usually when things happen, victims are nameless.
Yeah, it's a statistic. 10 people died, 9 people injured, 1 police officer, versus what are the names of the victims. It's always what's the name of the shooter. It's never what's the name of the victims. And I think if we start to, like, shed more light on who are these people individually, it'll take away from terrorists and other people wanting to do things for infamy or for recognition or to immortalize themselves by doing something so horrible.
But also, one more thing I want to add. Was it the beginning of episode 4 or was it 3 when the African-American doctor or nurse was seated in the courtroom and then the white woman said, did you judge, like, the way you took care of him, did you judge him as to what he did before? Like, you know what I'm saying. So that was
episode 3.
Was that 3? Okay.
Yeah.
So that was kind of giving that person a profile. As in, did you care how you were caring for that person,
because as a doctor you're not supposed to have any sort of bias. Like, a life is a life and you're supposed to save it at all costs.
So crazy.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting concept. I really enjoy the flashbacks. I don't know how both of you feel, but I think it's just a very strong start to each episode to get tidbits of information that are setting up these pieces of the puzzle. And the pieces of the puzzle that we find with Nigel, who we discussed last week, but this week we're going to get into a lot more with Nigel. Of course, they had connected. They ran into each other accidentally, and Nigel takes the picture and sends it and the whole 9. And now we see that Charlie, that's Gabe's undercover name, Charlie visits Nigel. And that meeting was such a strong confrontation between two people. Charlie begins by apologizing. Clearly, Nigel is not comfortable around Charlie. Whoever Charlie is this enigmatic, crazy figure who is so crazy that it terrifies Nigel in a way. But then Charlie begins with an apology.
To disarm him. You know, I mean, obviously there's friction there. I think it was his way of saying, like, put your arms down, it's fine. Like, I'm so sorry for everything I did. And for him to say that he just got lucky to not be in the same situation as him. This was all strategy. This was all him playing a game. so that he wouldn't be, you know, treated with hostility, so that he would be able to get what he needed to get done.
But Charlie also knew he had a drinking problem, so why would you take wine to someone like that when you know they're trying to work on themselves? And he did say he's sober, and it triggered Nigel so much that he committed suicide. But towards the end, we find out that he was creeping down the stairs or something like that. Because when Holly went to investigate the suicide or whatever, she said that he didn't actually die in the area where he was. He tried to crawl out or something
He tried to meet up with the priest of the church.
Wow.
So when he's sober, the consensus is that Charlie set Nigel up after
Right.
accusing him of murder.
Okay.
He accused him of murder in that meeting. When then, after disarming him with the apology, he goes back to Nigel's room, and then they talk, and then Charlie comes alive, and then we see this glimpse of Charlie, who's almost a demon in a lot of ways. Did you find it interesting the way Gabe is portrayed and the way Charlie's portrayed, and how different they are?
It reminds me a lot of Mad Men. Don Draper, because he has like these two personalities where when he goes home, he tries to be this family man, and he tries to wipe out a lot of his past, and that's what I see between Gabe and Charlie. But a lot of Charlie creeps up into Gabe at home too. That's inevitable. I think that's gonna happen regardless. So I see both.
Yeah, I think it's hard to like 100% compartmentalize everything. I think after a certain point, like, it's going to be so hard to keep track of what's the lie, what's the truth, and like, who am I really? And his wife seems to notice that. She like says, I don't think he knows who he is, which is pretty accurate.
And a question always proposed to Emily is, I don't think you know who your husband is either. And that's a conversation that definitely comes into play later in the episode. When we discuss Nigel and Charlie's meeting, things that stood out to me were calling Nigel the saint of skagheads, that how he was rolling around Kaylee and that hot, like as if he was the one who was giving out hot doses. And apparently what comes of it is that Charlie basically insinuates that Nigel's the one who killed Skittles. And Skittles was someone who was upset, or I guess because Nigel uses drugs, and when you use drugs, a lot of drug users are the least racist people because you're around whoever else is a druggie, whoever else is a skaghead in this case.
Right.
Did you think that would offend his crew, especially coming from the skinhead Nazi crew that he was with? Like, how do you think that affected his standing and Nigel's standing in the...
What do you think, Mina?
I don't understand your question.
So what do you think, like Nigel participating in drugs with the Pakistanis and all the Browns, as they put it?
He did say
How
that,
do you think it would have affected his standing with the Nazis, that he was his crew?
I don't think it would have affected it if he knew how to frame it in a specific context. So if he said, oh, I'm just using whatever racial slur, using these people to get what I need, I think they would kind of see it as like, okay, yeah, they kind of like, I feel like, are blindly loyal to him because he's asserted his dominance through physical force, but also he has a certain presence that you can just tell a lot of them immediately respect when he walks into the room, and he's loved and revered by them.
I was just going to say, it's his presence. He has this strong weight about him.
Yeah, Charlie does, but
Right.
Nigel is the one who's doing the drugs.
Yeah, but Nigel's such a lost cause. Like, he's so mentally out of it. He's already a lost soul. And I don't understand exactly what their past is, by the way. Do we know exactly what Gabe did in his past? I just see him doing stand-up music and singing and all of that. But what was he? What was his relationship to Nigel?
Well, the concept
gonna
is
explore
they were
that
part
more?
of this Nazi clan.
Okay.
They were all part of this Nazi white supremacist clan, which is actually something that's prevalent in the northern part of the UK, and it's a very unfortunate thing. So when we discuss things like Brexit and racial discourse, a lot of it happens in the north of Britain. And when he was part of this clan, he basically Charlie infiltrated them and became one of them and did a lot of things as an undercover to maintain his cover. And the question is he maintaining his cover, or is that who he really is? Is that who he became? Is this a way to express himself in this form? Is Charlie the real him?
I think it started out that way, where it wasn't the real him, and over time, like I said, it's hard to like tell the truth from the lie. You start becoming that person.
Well, just like Raza is becoming. We see towards the end that Raza is like bit by bit turning into someone that he thought he wasn't, but they broke it down for him in the car that you took this, you got the bike, you went you know what I mean? So yeah, I agree. I think you turn into that person eventually.
That's actually a great way. That's where I was trying to get to, is
great.
the fact that Raza is also showing
yes.
as an undercover part. He's becoming the informed, but he's also becoming an undercover. He's becoming every much this Raza who he was not. When it started, he was not this guy, and now he's becoming this person. I also got a sense that Charlie's a bully. He's just a bully.
And anger management issues, like really heavy one.
Is he actually angry, or is he in control of his anger and doing it on purpose?
Ooh, good question. Which comes first?
I think he's actually angry. Charlie's actually angry. I don't think you can act out that way without anger unless you're a sociopath.
Well, then how was he able to control himself so well when Nigel died? He provoked Nigel knowing, and that was a manipulative way to do it without any actual anger, because he can immediately stop being angry.
Well, with Charlie, when he is Charlie, he knows he doesn't have to have that restraint. When he's Nigel, he knows that within his work context, he has to restrain himself. So he's given free reins and free liberty when he is Charlie. Well, so that's why he feels that
let's set it up
out without having to control himself.
Let's set it up. Gabe and Charlie are the same person. Nigel is
Are you talking about Gabe right now, or Nigel?
So when Charlie and Nigel get into a confrontation and Charlie provokes Nigel takes a swing at Charlie, and Charlie does it on purpose to be like, oh, there he is.
Right.
And then he's immediately back to being chill. He ups the amps.
Triggers that person.
Triggers it, and then exactly, and then chills, and then allows Nigel to basically digress into his original behavior. But Charlie's very much in control. I've never actually seen.
That was Nigel.
Charlie.
I mean, sorry, that was Gabe, is what I'm trying to say. Even though he was Charlie in that context, that was Gabe.
But no, he had that's a skill where you can do that and then bounce back.
Yeah.
And when he does go into his weird anger place, Rose always tells him to imagine that he's in a happy space. Everyone knows how he is. But we see the real Charlie in the bar when he gets that pole and he just beats everyone up because of that little kid that brought over pizza.
The pizza box.
What was that? Like, why was he so mean to him? So sad.
He's Pakistani.
That's the thing.
He's part of the skinhead.
Especially in episode 4, we find out a lot, and we actually get to see what really happens in episode 5, which makes it even crazier. And that's where Nigel dies. And Nigel dies. He commits suicide, takes a hot shot, one of the types of shots that he was known for allegedly to give out. So we're gonna consider it a suicide. Do you think that was Charlie's plan all along?
Of course. He went over there to trigger him, left the alcohol, the wine or whatever it was there, the scotch, knowing that guy said, I've been sober for 6 to 7 years, leave me alone. And he did the trick. He played that mind game and bounced. And that's why he didn't care when he got the phone call and stuff about when he was dead and stuff, because he knew. Maybe because it's a loose end. There's a lot of stuff that Nigel can share, because he was so surprised to see him in the gas station, right? And Holly always lingers everywhere, so who knows what Holly's trying to do. So yeah, that was on purpose. He knew.
But now he can't really cover up his tracks because the compartmentalization is kind of over now.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily his doing, but it's the fact that now Holly and Gabe's wife are in communication. So there are all these paths being crossed between Charlie's personal life, Gabe's personal life. They're the same person. And now everything's becoming muddled. And I think that's why it's so hard to keep up the lie when you have these two separate lives. Eventually, something isn't going to fit.
Well,
I agree.
Before we move on to the next topic, I feel like we have one thing that fits for everybody.
Yes. Hey, guys. So before we move on to our next topic, we just wanted to say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV talk. For us to continue to grow, we can use your help. If you're on YouTube right now, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe. And if you're on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. But no matter where you are, leave us a comment so you can get involved in the conversation. Being a part of AfterBuzz TV has meant so much to all of us, and we truly appreciate you supporting us and doing what we love. Don't forget to tell your friends and keep enjoying our shows.
That's right. Keep enjoying our shows, and we enjoy you in the comments below. Please, if you're listening on iTunes, share, subscribe, and 5-star rating all the way around.
Yep.
Nigel and Charlie wasn't the only meeting that happened. Another big meeting happened at the same time where we get introduced to Jeff, and we do see Rose, and they go into this, and the whole clan go into this meeting. And when the clan, I don't mean the clan like Nigel's clan. I mean the good clan, the CTSU, or at least we hope they're good guys, right? They go into this meeting, and Gabe does something I think is very funny, is like tells Holly to stand up and introduce yourself. That's how Jeff likes to be addressed. And it clearly was a prank. Why do you think Gabe did that?
I think just to like take advantage of her at that moment, because she follows the rules and she's so strict on stuff, and she wants to be liked because she knows she messes up because of her weird personality at times. So that's why. Nothing serious.
It's like at least everyone knows who you are now.
Yeah. And I think they have something together. Like, there's this weird tension. It's not sexual, but it's like this weird chemistry that they vibe off of each other. But it's just like, co-workers.
I feel like it's a mentor-mentee relationship where Gabe is trying to show Holly the ropes and let her know that the book doesn't play here.
Yeah.
Throw the book out. You studied everything, and you think this is how things work, and this is what happens, and this is what's supposed to happen. The stakes are too high to go by the book.
Totally.
And with the prank, I felt like Gabe was asserting his dominance. I'm the expert, and if you were, you wouldn't have fallen for this. Just to show. It's like a hazing.
Yep.
And he does say, at least now he knows who you are. and they have a meeting, and also in the meeting, Gabe does something. He gives credit to Holly for a lot of the research. So he's not just throwing her on the bus. He doesn't want to have an incompetent partner and make her look bad. He just wants to haze her, but also still makes her look good.
Maybe because Holly kept her mouth shut when they ran into Nigel. Remember when...
But did she? We find out a lot more.
Well...
And in his eyes, she's trying to say in his eyes, she kept her mouth shut.
I thought she did.
Nigel is under the impression that she kept her mouth. I mean, Gabe.
But towards the end, Rose said, "Why didn't you tell me that you guys ran into Nigel?" And then Gabe said, "Oh, I didn't want to blah blah blah
bother you. I didn't want to bother you." That's the third meeting that we're gonna also get into, and also it was a very. The CTSU MI6 has a meeting as well where we now meet Naima Jones, who is the MI6 operative who was in the room, and the concept of MI6 not supposed to run operations, a covert op on UK soil. It's very much like the CIA. The CIA is not supposed to work nationally ever. It is purely supposed to be an international organization.
Damn.
However, we've seen them break from that. What were your thoughts about Naima as a character?
Which one was Naima?
Yeah, I literally
Naima was the MI6 agent that tried to calm down and tried to get Raza for herself, and was like trying to speak with them. She came down the stairs, and they could tell she was MI6 right away. And then Naima was expressing that she could like help run whoever their informant is, who of course we know is Raza, and that they already have things in place and they can help out. And we also see her at the end of episode 4 at the confrontation at the lockers, because Naima's the one who we eventually find out is the one who actually placed Gramos on the ground, and Gramos is an operative for Naima.
How come I can't remember her?
If I can see her face or know her outfit, then I'll know exactly who she is.
She was wearing like a black jacket, black blouse, and blue jeans.
Super helpful.
So, and she also
Got
had
it.
like
Which
she was
scene
also
though? Blonde hair, blue
she
hair.
was
what?
she had brown hair. She had brown dark hair like your hair. She
Okay.
actually looked very Middle Eastern. She's played by a Middle Eastern
She was
actress.
in the room, skinny,
Madhu.
long hair.
Oh, I remember
Looks like
now.
Amal
And she
Clooney
went
kinda.
outside.
Yes,
Yeah. I
Okay.
remember now. And she
Now
put the
ask the
suitcase in the
question
thing. Yeah. Ask her
In
one
the
more
locker,
time.
exactly.
We have the same thought process.
So with Naima, I felt like with Naima, the concept was that Naima's introduction was very interesting. It shows how CTSU or MI6, they're all supposed to be on the same side, but they don't really work together. And we see a lack of inter-organizational communication and assistance in a lot of these scopes of investigations. And I've always just wondered why the organizations don't help one another.
She was a bit out of place though. She just randomly popped up, don't you think?
Yeah, but I think it also kind of showed how there's always a struggle for power within within this dynamic where I don't know why she doesn't like Gabe. I feel like there's some history there, like an underlying reason she doesn't believe his motives or intentions are pure. There has to be something there. I don't think anyone would just act like that.
I don't think she didn't like Gabe. She was just being very MI6. She's the top dog. MI6 is like a powerful program. I mean, we watched James Bond because we all want to know MI6. Like that's the next level, right? So the concept is she just wants to run the ops the way she wants to run the ops. Here she is. She placed Gramos on the floor. I mean, they have a whole thing. And it's interesting how Holly was able to investigate and find this out because it's like, where does the money go? These guys are making a lot of money and yet they have nothing to show for it. And all the bills that Raza's dropped off are marked bills that come straight from the feds. So that's how they figure it out. So they MI6, CTSU goes up there and has that final meeting with them. And it's just
And they were impressed by Holly too when Holly announced those facts about the money. They're like,
Yeah,
wow.
I didn't understand the part where they were talking about usually you try to clean the money, they're dirtying the money.
because it's clean money. It's coming.
Why would they dirty it? Or,
That's the concept is they're getting it directly from MI6. It's government money. So the way you know an informer or the way you know that someone's a cop is because
snitch.
no one wants to know more names. Everyone wants to know less names because you're committing crime. So the guy that wants to know more names, that's the guy that you're like, that's the cop. So they're going out of their way. They're getting legal money. They have legit businesses. They have everything legit. They're going out of their way to be shady. Nothing they're doing is actually shady or illegal. So why are they doing that? And that's how they put together that it's an MI6 operation. It's
Okay.
because only the government would do that, is take someone who's legitimate and make them look shady. Usually criminals are shady and they try to make themselves look legitimate.
So are they doing that to protect themselves, to prevent anyone from figuring this out?
No, they're doing that because they are operatives too. So basically they are part of this whole formula. They're being set up and ran by MI6. So it's the same way that Raza's not an actual terrorist, but he's doing all these terroristy things. They're doing something very similar.
Okay.
So that's in that line. Other meetings that we have Akash and Nasir's friendship.
Such a bad influence. I don't like
Akash,
him at
horrible
all.
influence, yeah.
Called his mom a whore or something.
Yeah,
Not
that was
nice.
actually, and Nasir is slowly buying into it.
Yeah.
And I think what I don't like about this, I feel like they're using Islam in the wrong way, where Akash is Muslim and he uses the word kufr a lot. He pronounces it differently,
What
but
does
in Arabic
kufr
it's
mean?
kufr. Like something that's like against Islam or haram or forbidden. It's kind of like, oh, this is like not a good person. So the irony and the hypocrisy with that is it's like picking and choosing what you want to adhere to in the Quran. Like he's going to smoke cigarettes and do whatever else he wants, but then he's going to like have this air of, oh, I'm better than you because I'm Muslim, and your aunt or Ammi isn't even married. She's living with 3 unmarried men. So it's just very judgmental, and that's the part of it I did not like.
Did not like. It really upsets me as well. But we have to see where this friendship goes because it does lead to much bigger and worse events. Let's discuss really quickly Dadir finding out that Roxy is pregnant and it's Yusef's baby. Were you
was
surprised
so
by his
happy.
reaction?
No, because I think he just wants some sort of connection with his dead brother. So having a child that's, made by him, it's like his life is continuing now. He was so happy I loved it.
Yeah, it was so cute. It was
love
very
Didier.
heartwarming.
It was. He was woo, and you never know what Didier is gonna do because he's so crazy and erratic. It's like you're always tense around him. Quick secret lives that we have to discuss. I thought the 3 secret lives that we see running throughout the show. Emily has her own secret life. Like, it's not just Gabe. Emily has a secret life because she's smoking and she's not happy. And she brings in Holly, the investigator, and we hear the miles don't add up adage for the first time with Holly retelling her story of her father and his affair. Raza and Gramos, here Didier is tied up, points gun at Gramos and pulls the trigger.
Yeah.
And pulls. Were you guys shocked by Raza's willingness to do that to protect Didier?
Yes, I was super shocked by that because it meant he was willing to risk his own life and well-being for his friend, for someone who he hadn't even developed a long-term friendship with. Just out of his own loyalty and sense of right and wrong, he wants to do this.
They tricked him though, right? That was all on purpose.
Yeah.
And then they said, "Oh, we didn't kill your brother." So I think that's because he was really assuming that those guys were the ones that killed Yusef. Right?
Sure. Do you guys believe? Do you believe? What's the other Gramos? Isn't Lokri? Lokir is the one who was like, "We didn't kill your brother." Do you believe him?
No, I don't believe him. I believe it was either him or someone that worked for him, or maybe it's something that happened in the crossfire when they were trying to get something else.
I believe him for some reason. I just feel like he can just easily say we did it. Like, they have nothing to lose. They have so much power against the deer. So I believe him.
That's very cool because I believe him as well.
Right.
But it's very cool because the way he didn't even have to say that. He's like, "We didn't kill your brother," and I believed him because he said it
because he
very
could have
matter
not
of
said
factly.
it, you know.
And of course, Gramos says, "Luck will only last you for so long."
I know.
That was a powerful.
And he emphasizes chess and checkers and all these smart moves in life. Yeah, that was great.
And we touched on this, but of course, Gabe and Marty Charlie, has this secret life. And there's a memorial for Nigel. And we see Sharon again. Sharon comes back to play. And the pizza delivery boy. And with the pool stick. And it just looks like Charlie's going to go and just be this white supremacist. And it's very crazy.
And then they show him always parked up in that mountain by the snow, changing his clothes. That's before he switches back to Gabe and drives home.
Yeah,
right?
and he burns his clothes this
He always has to
time.
get rid of like everything that's tied to Charlie. He has to get rid of any trace.
But then Reza made that comment in the car and said, "Do you ever wash the back? So many assholes have been here. It smells like shit." And I think that's why, because all the past, all the blood, it's all in the back seat.
Well, it's all the criminals that he's arrested and put in the back seat. Charlie burns his clothes, becomes Gabe, and then Gabe goes home. We see these 2 big reveals, and the big reveal, of course, is the big shot, and it's Sal, the gym instructor, the guy who owns the gym. And then we see the second thing is that, of course, Naima runs Gramos. Now let's jump into episode 5 and discuss November Has Come. We're going to talk about the way of the gun, Holly and Sharon, the mission, and Raza's arrest. With episode 5, we also see another beginning powerful scene, and that's the travel path of the gun. The gun, which is a Zastava M57 pistol manufactured in 1991, goes from and here's when they start shooting these statistics. Fired 9 times, killed 4 people, 4 civilians and 1 police. And the officer, of course, we find out is Holly. And that was like such a shock right up front, that Holly's looking and then her eyes get wide and boom. And it gets a lot more graphic. We see the gun goes from the trunk to Lorky Gramos, from Lorky to Yusef at the bar where he sells it, to the safe that Yusef keeps it in. Didier picks it up. Didier, after finding this knowledge of the baby and having a piece of Yusef still alive, goes and throws it away in the trash. And then it clicked to me, Akash digs through trash. And then I was like, oh. And then, of course, we don't see what happens from the trash to the hands of the investigators and the forensics police that are there investigating the scene. In your opinions, this scene, on a scale of 1 to 10, how powerful was it?
20.
Yeah.
So good.
It was very powerful. I think it just makes me think, are all these people going to be incriminated, and who's going to be off the hook?
Yeah.
Also that everyone's tied in together. Whether you like it or not, we're connected in this weird, seamless way. And it's so scary to think.
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, is that we're all like kind of, it's this butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Where something you don't think it has any importance. Like, this is unconnected. Rosalie and Didier coming together is unconnected to this gun. This gun finds its way into the trash, and then of course I just remember Akash sifting through trash, and it's like he must have found it.
Totally.
But it's just it was crazy. The path of a gun, and that's what could really happen in a lot of situations. Reminds me of Lord of War with a bullet when it goes from the manufacturer and then it kills the kid, and it's like this is the path of it.
Or John Q.
Yeah, that's
the heart transplant.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
Things that just happen that build up, and that has a lot to do with the concept of this show overall. It's all this. It's the path of this gun and the path of the action are simultaneous.
Incredible.
We see something very crazy when Holly goes to Sharon's bar and starts her own investigation, goes up to North England and asks about Charlie, and then Holly shows her badge to Sharon.
Yeah, and then Sharon opens up in such a graphic way. Not graphic, but she was so raw and authentic, showing her the video. So
Giving her the hard drive.
Yeah, well, no, Holly took it, right?
Holly took the hard drive with the video.
But at that moment, I was like, isn't he your lover, your love of your life? Why are you just giving...
Well, the badge came out, and also we saw the video, and the video was like, she could feel a sense of angst from Holly, I felt.
Yeah.
And that it was more. And the video shows that Charlie doesn't beat up the pizza boy. In fact, he beats up all the skinheads at the bar. So is he really Charlie?
Huh.
Was he giving them their just dues?
I feel like he might have hated who he became when he was Charlie. So it was him lashing out at the frustration of having to live this life and be this person. And by retaliating, he becomes the very person he hates the most.
Did the crowd expect him to do that? Maybe that's
No,
why.
they had no clue. That's why they were unprepared. It looked like he was going to go after the pizza boy, and it shows it in a way that this is something that the old Charlie would have done, and he would have went after the pizza boy. You can always blame it on Nigel's death because he was there in his memory. Sharon realizes Holly is in the picture from episode 3. So Sharon looks and goes, "Wait, I've seen you before. Do I know you?" Holly's like, "No." Pulls out the badge, and then Sharon clicks in her own mind, wait, blows it up, and it's like, I know you, and sees the license plate to the car. Was Holly going to Sharon's bar wrong?
You know, she should stay in her zone. That's what I think.
I think that's what's getting her into trouble, honestly, is she keeps digging and digging and digging. And I think
all you get is dirty.
It's gonna come back to her.
You go looking for dirt.
She's too young. She's too green. Like, she doesn't have as much experience to protect herself. And she's so, she just has, this feeling of, I need to do what's good. I need to investigate. But I think that's gonna be her demise.
And everyone knows her now as that cop. All the kids know everyone. Nasir knows. Yeah. He remembers her as the
everyone just remembers Holly. Holly's just doing extra the most.
Right?
It's going to have to backfire, right? It has to.
Clearly it did.
Sharon then, of course, uses this license plate to go back, finds Charlie's address, goes to the house, smells his clothes, and remember she had said that line, I'll always be able to smell you, I'll always be able to know it's you. Though. And it comes to play, sprays the perfume, takes a bath. Did you think all that stuff was weird?
Her leg, cuts herself. Really? How would you go to a stranger's house?
Yeah, because it's a life she feels that she was meant to live.
Yeah.
Which is why she asked Emily, did Charlie buy you all these things?
But then
because Charlie clearly hasn't bought her anything. In fact, used her the way someone in that situation would. And he borrowed money. Yeah. She stole her piano.
But also the earring comment. So
did she take it?
Yeah, she stole the earrings.
Yeah.
Oh.
She stole the earrings from Emily's and put them on, and then Emily recognized them, and she basically took them as these are mine. These are earrings that he's owed me for years, and he hasn't get. It was the concept. It was the side bitch concept where you haven't taken it, and now you're just, this is mine. And she takes it and she sneaks in the house and does
the length of the lie. We find out that Gabe or Charlie pretended to go to his father's funeral, and it wasn't even his father. Sharon must be so out of her mind right now.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk about Sharon and Gabe meeting up.
Gosh.
But I thought it was really cool how Lori was so smart. Mommy, why is her hair wet? Lori was the one who kind of figured out this woman's weird. She's out of place. Emily kind of knows who Sharon is. When she hears the name, she's like, oh, at first she wants to send her away, then decides better against it.
Kids are always I think they have the most astute observations. They know what's up immediately.
But also, Emily, when she was talking to Holly, said something like, I married Gabe for my sins. I want to really understand what she meant by that. We don't know yet. Like, what kind of sins did she do in her past? Or what does she feel like she's so guilty of to marry someone like Gabe? So, I mean, I'm sure hopefully...
we definitely find a lot about that, I feel, in the next... Because that was such a powerful line.
I'm like jumping in.
No. This is great. And yeah, let's discuss Sharon and Gabe's meeting. The relationships are kind of blending in. How did you feel when Gabe was coming home and Sharon was there and Emily was there and they were just sitting on the couch investigating each other?
They're his two favorite ladies.
That's what I love when he said that.
Where are my two favorite ladies? Meaning his wife and his daughter. And then Emily says, "We're in here."
Thought it was impeccable timing on the women's end.
So intense.
Yeah, I didn't know how that was gonna play out. When he arrested her, I was like, wow, this is a huge abuse of power. I didn't think he was actually gonna let her go. I thought he was
huge abuse of power. She broke into his house and stole earrings. Actually, technically, everything she did was a felony.
Yeah, but then Emily invited her back in. Right? So not knowing.
He doesn't have proof that she did that, though. So he did it without the knowledge that she did that. He was making an assumption.
She has the earrings on her ears.
Yeah, but that's him making an assumption. He didn't see.
She also talks about it.
Well, and it says, you were shagging me. You're a cop.
Yeah, I mean, he arrests her and it's like, yo, you're breaking in. And it would also be illegal because if she finds out she's a cop and then goes in the house, that's also illegal regardless. Like, she knows this undercover person. It's under false pretenses. You're gaining your way and gaining entry into someone's house.
But he did all that just to make sure.
Get rid of her out of the house.
Yeah, out of the house, but also like.
Because he didn't arrest her ultimately.
Of course, like let go, do your thing, live your life. But because he did admit that he loved her for a while, and I think he only did that to just shut up Emily. As in, Emily, stay in your zone. I'm gonna get rid of her.
And that's interesting because I thought he did that to shut up Sharon.
No,
like not everything was fake. I believe it was real, but I think he loved undercover work because he hated it so much. That happens often, and so Sharon was a part of this life, and that life is not what he wants his life to be.
I think the opposite. I think he did that because he wanted to just show Emily, like,
he arrested her
you're the love of my life. I don't like her. She's a whore. Let me get rid of her.
I also think he knew the charges wouldn't stick because she knows too much information. Like, if she goes to court, now she has to say, this is how I know him, and it becomes a big deal. Because when he arrests people, he's not just a police officer. He's CTSU. There's a lot that goes on. And then he says, I loved you. And then she says, you loved who they let you be when you were with me.
Yes. So powerful.
Do you think how Gabe handled this situation was wrong?
Towards the end with Sharon?
With Sharon in general. Do you think Gabe was wrong in deceiving Sharon?
Deceiving how, though? Go more in depth.
Deceiving Sharon is in being with Sharon, infiltrating a community by utilizing and using Sharon to blend into the community by showing that he's a straight heterosexual skinhead male, using her by taking her money when she had to sell her piano to give it to him to do so. I mean, she used him. He used her.
I think it's just what he had to do to survive. So I'm not going to say like right or wrong. Like, obviously I would never be with someone like that, but it's what he had to do given those circumstances. And it was how he kind of coped with the situation by having like one person there like Sharon that maybe he actually did love and enjoy his time with. Like, how else is he going to keep his sanity?
I think the only thing that he would say is he did it for the greater good. Mm-hmm. He had reasons to protect lives and do this and that. And, he went with it. He loved her or whatever it is that happened for the greater good. That's his excuse.
I mean, it's all part of this mission.
Right,
we have two missions going on. And then now we have a third mission that jumps in. And that's Raza infiltrating the concept of this. Raza basically confronts Holly and everyone trusts the Rizla. Everyone. Right? So now Raza has to infiltrate and take Faisal into the gym.
Yes.
That was something. That was tense. And
Gabe even said, if you want your mom to get a passport, make sure Sal likes Faisal.
Faisal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry. And it worked, and he did, but they were so slick.
Faisal and Imran are the same person.
Right.
The way Gabe and Charlie are the same person, so Faisal's the undercover name. Faisal's the limp Pakistani person that we've seen throughout the...
Yeah.
He's always alone.
He's always alone, and that's something is like that Sal brings up, but that's why Raza's like, no one likes Faisal. And then Gabe says, well, everyone likes you. Everyone trusts the Rizla.
Right, but also he didn't even know like which we see towards the end, but well, I don't want to give it away, but like he was fixing the wrong foot or something like that. It just shows how unconnected.
For someone who didn't want to give it away, you just did.
Okay.
Here's the thing we need to get into with episode 5. Giving Faisal time to get the pictures, Raza gets into a fight with Cut. And I feel like that fight's been setting up for a little while. It's like Cut's just been going at Raza, and Raza's like, you know what? This is a perfect time and an excuse. He gets into a fight, Cut throws the first punch, bringing Sal out of the office and giving Faisal time to actually go through.
I think that scene was so perfect.
It was so well done. And especially since Sal didn't like Faisal in the beginning.
Yes.
And it's like, no, he's always alone. What does that tell you about this person? And then just going in and signing him up. And how arrogant and confident Agent Imran Faisal was to go. I would have just been like, wow, how did he know when to stop or not when to stop? He just took pictures like, I'm going to do this. Took the phone out and took time to and put it right back.
Genius.
With that phone, I mean, it just got that. And it's just, it was so crazy because later we get the second part of the mission, which is we see why he created the phone. They replicate the phone in order to take that original phone. Wow. And then Faisal gets in there. He's the last one out. He gets the phone. And Sal just has a feeling something's wrong.
Off.
And it's because he rubbed the wrong leg.
Yeah.
And Imran let it.
Which shows that Reza was honest.
I thought,
Yeah, because Raza gets arrested.
Of course.
Even though he said that the leg was a dead giveaway, I thought he saw the wire. Because remember the wire was coming out of his jacket as he was rubbing his leg? I thought the wire was the dead giveaway too. So I feel like Nimran, or I should say, Imran. Faisal. I feel like he really did not have any of his bases covered. It was such a sloppy operative job.
It was sloppy, but it was so beautiful at that moment that Gabe, realizes how honest Reza was and immediately gets the passport ready. And
we'll definitely talk about that when we talk about Raza's arrest. But when it comes to what happens in the gym, Sal knocks out Faisal. And of course, we find out later that Faisal dies, but we just see all this blood. And it's like they go in. No, he knocks him out with the weight. He kills him with the weight. He bashes his head in. And then, of course, Sal gets arrested in the operation. But Sal's not the only person who got arrested. Raza got arrested. And Raza's arrest, he gets a phone call moments before they come in. And Gabe's like, don't resist. And they break in and they arrest Raza in connection because here we have a down agent and it's got to be someone's fault. And the concept is, did Raza tip off Sal? And Raza states, everything that I'm in, all the stuff is because of you. So if anything happened, you did it. I didn't even want to do any of this stuff. You made me do it.
So true. Oh my gosh.
Is Gabe making Raza do this stuff?
Yeah, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. Even though he had that whole conversation, that Holly had the conversation, it was your fault that you did this, you chose to do this. Well, what's the alternative? Like, what, he's going to be behind bars, or his mom's not going to get citizenship? What's the alternative for him?
It's yes and no. It's a mind game. And we see in the car in the back seat when both Holly and Gabe break it down, like, did you think we did this? Or you did it. We didn't tell you to get your bike and go. Or we're not telling you to pick up the phone. So it's like this mind game that they're doing, but also they're threatening him. If you don't, you'll go to jail. So I don't even know what the answer is to that. It's like 50-50.
No, they are making him do it.
Are they? Because Raza continues to do it. He decides that then he's going to go back into it. He gets in the van and he goes and infiltrates the van and I thought it was just weird that they had the conversation kind of in front of Dadir. Like, Dadir's there working at the factory too, because Dadir now has become this straight-laced guy who wants to help the nephew. And Raza just goes in front of the Dadir and goes to the car.
But hold up. Speaking of the car is being followed. So we see towards the end, the cops are following Reza in the van. So who was that? Did you guys notice that?
So they're following because they're following their asset.
So that's Gabe.
Yeah, that's CTSU as well. Exactly.
Okay.
So Raza decides he's going to continue, especially they get the information of 17 Chessington clove from Sal, and from Sal basically they they break laws again, where they're like, we're stuck in traffic instead of taking Sal to speak to his lawyer. Do you think the fact that they keep breaking constitutional laws is okay?
I mean, if it's for the greater good, yes. If not, then no.
Who gets to decide what the greater good is, though?
Oh, I don't know. Good question.
See, it's a slippery slope, right? So where do we stop? Where does terrorism end and criminalization just begin? And where does that just lead into injustice?
I don't know.
That's a great question. I don't know, but I can say that like laws and morality are two different things. Just because something is legal doesn't make it moral. So them breaking whatever is constitutional doesn't make it immoral. They're doing what they need to do for their own like
sure, but is it unconstitutional? I didn't bring up any morality.
It is unconstitutional.
But they're also misusing their power. They know they can do it, so that's
I mean, that's what they did with Raza, right? Section 41, I can arrest you for 28 days
I hate when he does
and
that.
not have to charge you with anything. That's not, I mean, that is clearly against, and in the United States, that would be a clear Fourth Amendment violation. So in the UK, I believe it's a 14th or 12th prime law, but the concept is just unnecessary search and seizure, just not charging someone for a period of time, unusual crime, and punishment. All these things all play. They're just breaking a lot of their laws for the greater good, but once again, who determines that?
I think it's like humans being human and having, again, that power shift and having entitlement, I can do it, or like having excuses. So I don't think it's right, but that doesn't stop them from doing it.
Let's talk about these two things really quick before we wrap. Nasir, Raza, and Akash. Nasir, of course, has this relationship with Akash. Raza's dead set against it. Nasir calls Sadia a whore.
Yes.
Nasir calls Sadia, his Omni, a whore for living with a married men. That's a sentiment that we see mimicked from Akash from the previous episode, episode 4, and saying it's haram. So we see Nasir is kind of getting radicalized, or at least becoming a little more extreme or conservative in his views, to say the least. Also, we saw the tracksuit that in episode 3 was seen as the person who pulls the trigger on Raza. Raza's wearing that tracksuit, and that's an interesting clue because in the beginning of the investigation we see that. And Cash gets the car running, and Raza sets the Kash's car on fire.
Which was brilliant.
Was it brilliant, or was this a Charlie move for Raza? This is not Raza. Raza doesn't set cars on fire.
I think it was both.
Raza dates white women who go to art school.
Well, that was a funny scene too, that he beat up that guy because that guy said that guy's gonna hook up with your girl.
In episode 3.
But no, I think it was also a sign to leave my brother alone. You're influencing my brother, like F off, like stop calling our mom a whore and all of this. So it was mixed. It was influenced by Charlie, but also the new Reza, you know?
And very quickly, let's discuss Raza comes clean to his father, but not to Sadia. Raza moves in with the deer. Do you think that's a good idea? Into Yusef's room?
No.
I think it keeps him permanently tied to this entire triangle, even though even though Didier is like technically like clean now, has a new life. I just think it's bad for him to be in the same circle.
I mean, we'll find out. Let's get right into predictions.
Oh my God. That counted as
one more episode left.
Your AfterBuzz TV.
Oh, the show is so good.
Only the master plan is left, episode 6, so we find out everything, hopefully, that we want to know. Predictions for episode 6.
I think Reza's gonna get into deep trouble, and he's actually gonna start doing all these things that he's been being told to do, but he wants to do it, and I think that's gonna just get him into jail, and I think it's gonna be the end of him for some reason. That's what I feel.
I think Reza's brother is gonna get into trouble trying to fight for his brother and be loyal to him. Yeah. And I think he's gonna get caught up in something, and it's gonna cause the death of one of them. I have this weird prediction that I think our protagonist, the informer, is gonna die at the end.
So you think Raza's gonna die?
I think Raza's gonna die because of like there's so many clues about his imminent death. The fact that they call him a racehorse, and Reza replies, "Oh, they kill racehorses at the end
There's
of a race,"
foreshadowing,
and then the rat imagery in episode 1. So I feel like he's going to die.
Well, I stick to my prediction from episode 2 when we discussed that I feel that Nasir is the one who's actually, he gets radicalized and he is the one who commits the crime. But we'll find out. I don't know. What can we find out about you, and where can people find you if you want to be found?
So if you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Raza Shar, and also on the Will and Grace After Show Thursdays at 7 p.m.
Hey everyone, I'm Mina. You can follow me on Instagram or Twitter at Mina Makes Magic, or go to my website, minawahab.com.
And I am Tehran, literally at I am Tehran all across the board. Please find me on IG, tweet, Facebook, whatever you have, and on a slew of other AfterBuzz shows, hosting and being on the panel. We love to discuss and love to discuss with you. Crystal will hopefully be back next week, hosting and paneling and all that good stuff. But until now, don't inform unless you're an informer. We'll see you guys next week.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.